Okay, good morning everybody. We are going to be learning about the magazine cover design assignment today. You are going to recreate a magazine cover that looks as close to the original as possible. So in the blog you'll see the student samples. The ones with the guides are what the students created, and the ones without the guides are the original. So you can see in this example how close it is to the original. Then we have the Food and Wine magazine. You can see this is the student sample here and the original. Here's another Food and Wine magazine, the student sample here and the original. And the Rolling Stone. The student sample is right here and the original. This is amazing how close they match. And then the Vanity Fair student sample here and the original. So you can see that the whole goal is for you to learn how to recognize differences in fonts and type styles, and to really get good at using the alignment tools that are in Illustrator to create a document that is professionally, at a professional level, I should say. So I give you a list of magazines right here. And you want to choose one that matches your level of comfort. So you want to give yourself a little bit of a challenge. Not make it too easy, but don't pick something too difficult. If you're a person that always finishes things ahead of time, you should try a magazine like Popular Mechanics. That one has, if you look at it, it's got a lot of titles and shapes and extra text effects and things happening, so it'll be challenging. If you're somebody who barely ever gets assignments done on time and you're often feeling like you are scrambling to catch up, then Food and Wine would be the magazine for you. It's got really easy layouts. So I need you to clear with me your layout before you get started. You need to show me your cover and say, Miss A, what do you think? Is this a good one to choose? If you want to use a magazine beyond these listed here, you have to ask me first and show me what you're thinking of, and I will give you the yay or nay on that one. Okay, so let's start this assignment. The first thing that you would do is look for a magazine cover, and it's pretty easy to do a Google search on that. You can just do, I'm going to put in here Popular Mechanic magazine cover. Search under images, and you will find an image of a cover that you think you want to try. See, this is a really good example of something with a lot of difficulty in it. Right here, this shows you all the file sizes that are available. So if you click on it, you want to find and download the largest file size that's available on the web. So I would click on this one, View Image, right-click on it, and save the image to my Google Drive inside my graphic design folder, inside a new folder that I've called Magazine, and label this as Popular Mechanic magazine cover. Okay, then you're going to go into Illustrator and you're going to make a new file. You're going to call it your name _ magazine. You need to make sure that it's 8.5 by 11, and then you say OK. Then you're going to place your magazine cover in there. So File, Place. You're going to go to your Google Drive, to your graphic design folder, inside your magazine, and find the magazine cover. Place it in. Hold your Shift key and make this magazine cover as large as your piece of paper. And center it. Then in your layers, you want to lock that first layer so the magazine is not going to move. Then you make a new layer just by pressing right here, create new layer. You're going to call this layer Grid. And what you're going to learn is that designers use grids to lay out their type. It's not all just randomly placed on here. There's actually an invisible grid that a designer would be using to align things to. So we're going to make that grid by taking our rectangle tool, making sure we have a fill of none and a stroke of something bright that's going to show up over our magazine. And you're going to draw out a rectangle to cover the entire magazine cover. Then you're going to go to Object, Path, Split into Grid. You're going to move this little window over and click the preview box and start with your rows. Say, okay, when I split this into 2, is it aligning up with anything? Not necessarily. 3, definitely not. When I go to 4, I'm starting to see it lining up. And then when I go to 5, it doesn't really seem like it's lining up. So I'm going to go back to 4. And if you look at 4, when I say lining up, I mean, see how mechanics is lining up right here with this grid line? Can we trust is fitting in here and lining up with this grid line? We fly is lining up here. So you can see how things are lining up with those columns, those rows. Then we go to columns and you do the same thing. See, 2 not doing much. 3 looks like things are starting to line up with 3. And 4 seems like things are really lining up with 4. So when I look at 4 and I'm seeing where things are lined up, see how right here the myth of clean coal is lining up with this grid line? And then over here we've got this Russian dam disaster is lining up with this grid line. You can see how hand vax is fitting right inside of this grid. And then if you come over to the other side, you can see how these things are fitting inside of these grid lines. So if you need help, ask me for creating your grid, the best way to do that. Once you have your grid created, we can close out some of these things. You lock that layer as well. And then you make a new layer. Put that in between the grid and layer 1 and call this one my version. My version. Okay. So you've got your version. This is the layer that you're going to work in, the middle layer. The first thing that you're going to do is draw out a text box for the word popular. And if you're doing something else, then draw out a text box for your cover, your title. So I'm going to type in the word popular here. If I hold the Shift, Command, and greater than key, that will make my type bigger. The other place to change your type is to go into Window, Type, and bring up your character palette. So Window, Type, and Character brings up this palette right here. And this is a really important palette to use for designing this magazine cover. You've got here, this is your font choice. So if I come in here and click on another font, then it will change to another font. It'll also change to italic and semi-bold based on inside the character palette. You can come in here to change your font sizes. And this here is called your leading. That's the space between lines of type, and I'll demonstrate this one in a minute. And this here is your kerning. This is the space between your letters. You're going to need to pay attention to your leading and your kerning in order to get it to match up with the magazine. You also have paragraph alignment. This is where you choose, is my type going to align to the left of my text box, the center of my text box, the right of my text box, or is it going to be force justified across my whole text box? And you can see that happening over here. So I'm going to left align this.